I'm Greg Sadler. I am a professor of philosophy currently at Fayetteville State University, and I'm here to talk about my book, the advanced copy of which arrived last Friday, about a week ago. It is called Reason Fulfilled by Revelation, the 1930s Christian Philosophy Debates in France. And I wanted to talk a little bit in these videos about what the book is about, how I got the idea for it, what's included in it, and why you might want to get a copy of it. And if you notice, it's a little bit unusual, edited and translated by Gregory B. Sadler, and a lot of the book consists in translations of documents from the 1930s Christian philosophy debates, the time when the issue of Christian philosophy was discussed by philosophers, theologians, about 50 of them, all told. The issues have never been explored in as great detail or by so many people in great depth. Actually, probably not by such great minds as they were in the 1930s. So this is a reference point, a constant reference point for anybody who wants to think about the notion of Christian philosophy. And so what I'm going to do in these videos is talk about a number of different topics. This video, I'll tell you a little bit about the book. So the bulk of the book is translations of a number of different documents that up until now have just not been available in English. And in a lot of American libraries, the journals in which these documents were found just weren't accessible. So this book is good by adding a lot of new information for Anglophone authors who would like to know more about this period of history and about the issues that are discussed there. There's also about 100-page historical and thematic introduction. So it's a historical introduction in that I talk about all the background, who the key players were, why they got involved, why they conflicted with each other, because it wasn't just a debate between rationalists, or as we would nowadays call them, secularists, and then Christian thinkers. It was actually an intra-Christian debate in large extent. On one side were Etienne Gilson and Jacques Maritain and a lot of their friends and colleagues. And then another major side was another Christian philosopher, the Catholic philosopher Maurice Blondel, often called the philosopher of action. Completely original thinker who had a great effect on French philosophy, especially French Thomism. There were other Catholic philosophers who thought that there couldn't be any such thing as Christian philosophy, what we call the Louvain Thomists, like Fernand von Steenbergen and Léon Noël and Pierre Monnet. There were also some Protestant thinkers who got involved, although I haven't translated any of them in this book. And there were some phenomenologists like Gabriel Marcel who found themselves involved. And all of these people discussed these issues. Some of them actually got quite heated with each other, debating them. The secularists, or the rationalists, they actually dropped out of the debates fairly early. So all that's historical background. I could talk about this all day long because I've been obsessing over these issues and these thinkers for years and years and years. So there's a historical introduction, and you may find that very useful. There's also a thematic introduction, and in it I discuss some of these documents, but I discuss a lot of other as yet untranslated documents. I would say that now Blondel's voice has been restored to the debates in English. Before, all we were hearing were Brehère and Gilson and Maritain, whose works had been translated, and to a lesser extent von Steenbergen. Now we can see the wide gamut of the people who are involved. But there's probably, I would say, a good 80% of the documents from the debates are not yet translated into English. So there's still more work to be done. But scholars can now, if you get this, scholars can now quite easily catch on to what the main thrusts of the debate were, what the main lines of argumentation were. The book also includes something that could be very valuable for scholarship, a chronological bibliography. I have been pursuing this for years and years and years, and I have, I think, what are all of the documents that are connected in any way with this debate, ranging from the prehistory of the debate back in the 1920s all the way through to 2010. There is, unfortunately, a book that came out which I reviewed, and it really adds something to the debates, but it didn't make it in here because this was to the printers by 2000, mid 2010, and we just didn't have access to that book, and that's Oliva Blanchette's Maurice Blondel, A Philosophical Life. But other than that, I think if you're doing research on these debates, or you're even just interested in the conception of Christian philosophy, this is a book that you're probably going to want to get. The other documents that are currently available about Christian philosophy are Gilson's books. There's several of those out. There's Jacques Moritain's, an essay on Christian philosophy. There's a few articles here and there. But actually there's also a piece by Gilson in here. There are pieces by some other lesser-known authors like Antonin Sertillage, Bruno de Sillage, and of course Gabriel Marcel, Etienne Born, von Steenbergen I've mentioned already, Blondel. We have 4 pieces by Blondel in this book. I think that's probably enough for right now. I'm going to try posting this video as my preliminary, and as more and more ideas occur to me, I will load more and more of them in. I think that this is important to do in part because we inhabit a time now where authors can't count on presses to do all of the work themselves. Authors have to come out and speak about their books, and the internet offers just amazing possibilities for this. The technology that we have currently for disseminating ideas, I think it's quite wonderful. And these are very interesting issues that are raised in here. Not just for Christian thinkers. I think that actually there's quite a bit of implications for other religious traditions of philosophy. You might say, could there be a Buddhist philosophy within modern times? Or would that, by being religious, no longer be philosophy? You can ask the same of any religious tradition. I also noticed that there's other traditions of philosophy that have similar questions have been posed about what their nature would be, how they could be defined, and those within those communities of discourse were in fact working on that and arguing with each other. So I think that this in fact could be a book, very interesting, thought-provoking for non-academics, educated people who have an interest in the life of the mind, of course, but I think non-academics could also get quite a bit out of this. If you are thinking about teaching a class that touches on Christian philosophy, this is probably a book that you'll want for your well, at least for yourself as a reference work, perhaps even for your students, although hopefully it'll be coming out in paperback eventually. These hardcover books, you know, they're never cheap. Let the libraries buy these perhaps, and then if it comes out in softcover, buy those. So I'm going to leave off here. You notice I get very excited about this when I start talking, and so maybe at this point I should cut it, and I will post more of these videos as time goes on.